jubilation and conversation are growing across G20 summit. In discussions about the global economy, many leaders continue to stress that if the current international financial system is unable to meet present realities, the world will repeatedly face mounting pressure from debt vulnerabilities that deepen disparities between wealthier and less wealthy nations. This perspective was echoed strongly when the president of the Republic of Namibia reiterated that African countries are not looking for handouts, but rather fair access to financing opportunities. He emphasized appreciation for the South African government, commending President Ramaphosa, his administration, and the people of South Africa for bringing the G20 gathering to African soil, a moment he described as significant because it placed African priorities at the center of the summit's conversations. The Namibian leader pointed to the alignment of his country with the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, stressing that development questions must be approached through a lens that reflects African conditions. He noted that many developing countries repeatedly encounter debt difficulties largely because they are subjected to borrowing conditions shaped by risk perceptions that do not accurately represent the realities within their borders. These high costs, he explained, often place developing nations at a disadvantage, making it harder to pursue growth. He highlighted that Namibia had recently fulfilled its obligations by paying off a $750 million Eurobond on schedule, demonstrating fiscal accountability and responsibility. Yet, despite such compliance, Namibia continues to be classified by some decision-making bodies as a high-risk economy. For this reason, he called for an international financial architecture that treats nations more equitably. According to him, such fairness would help ensure that global development frameworks are built around the well-being of people. He argued that promoting inclusive governance in global financial systems is essential for effectively responding to modern challenges. He warned that if existing systems remain unfit for purpose, global debt pressures will intensify, worsening inequality between developing and advanced economies. Namibia, he repeated, is not requesting free resources. It is seeking a balanced financing model that allows it to industrialize and move its economy forward. He invited investors to support projects that add value at the source of natural resources, including critical minerals, so that the benefits can be broadly shared. To ensure no group is excluded, he stressed the importance of countries mobilizing enough resources internally, managing debt responsibly, and protecting social and economic programs such as healthcare, education, and infrastructure. Namibia encouraged G20 members to improve debt treatment processes by offering concessional financing to countries demonstrating sound debt management. He also spoke about the role of fair taxation and financial inclusion in tackling inequality, pointing to Namibia's expanding social protection programs. For example, elderly support grants have reached a vast majority of eligible citizens, while child support grants provide assistance to a significant portion of vulnerable children. These programs, he said, ensure that marginalized populations, including persons living with disabilities, are not left behind. They create space for women and young people to contribute meaningfully to national development. Closing his remarks, the Namibian president invited the G20 community to renew their commitment to inclusive, sustainable economic growth, grounded in the Sustainable Development Goals. He organized his concluding message around 3 pillars: strengthening trade, securing development financing while managing debt responsibly, and reducing inequality through inclusive policies. All these, he explained, align with the G20 summit's themes centered on solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Following his remarks, the moderator introduced the next round of speakers, including leaders from Sierra Leone, Egypt, Nigeria, Zimbabwe, and Kenya. The president of Sierra Leone, who also serves as the chairperson of the Economic Community of West African states, ECOWAS. Extended greetings from the West African region. He began by congratulating the South African hosts for their hospitality and noted that ECOWAS, which is celebrating its 50-year anniversary, is reflecting both on its achievements and its future. He emphasized that the discussions at the summit revolve around trade, development financing, and the burden of mounting debt, all of which have direct implications for millions of people in the region. He explained that trade is not only about the exchange of goods, but also about creating meaningful opportunities for Africa's population of more than 1.4 billion people. The continent's goal is to boost intra-African trade by implementing the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, effectively. This system, he highlighted, is essential for supporting small enterprises, linking communities that are geographically isolated, and unlocking the potential of regional value chains. However, he clarified that African countries cannot achieve this goal alone. He presented a set of requests to the G20, reform global trade regulations so African exports can compete fairly, support investments in digital corridors, logistic systems, and green transportation, and strengthen fully the implementation of free trade agreements, including those that uplift women and youth entrepreneurs. On development financing, he stated that Africa's challenge is not lack of ambition but lack of affordable capital. He explained that many African nations face borrowing costs that can be up to 8 times higher than those faced by advanced economies. To address this imbalance, he encouraged the G20 to expand concessional financing tools for climate resilience, digital transformation, and urban development. He also called for empowering institutions across Africa with direct access to global capital markets, and for promoting innovative financing mechanisms such as diaspora bonds, carbon credits, and instruments linked to the Sustainable Development Goals. On climate responsibilities, he noted that Africa contributes a very small share of global emissions, less than 4% yet, experiences some of the harshest climate impacts. For this reason, the Sierra Leonean leader urged G20 nations to fulfill the $100 billion climate finance commitment and to ensure that vulnerable countries can quickly access funds for losses and damage. Turning to global security, he stressed that progress requires reducing poverty, inequality, and injustice, all of which contribute to instability. He urged the G20 to work toward a more peaceful international environment, where prosperity is a shared goal. On debt challenges, he stated that more than 20 African countries are at high risk of debt distress. Many of these difficulties, he clarified, do not stem from irresponsible borrowing, but from a global lending architecture where structural factors make borrowing expensive and difficult to manage. He encouraged the reform of the G20's common framework for debt treatment to make it more transparent, faster, and more equitable. He suggested that debt restructuring efforts should involve all creditors fairly and follow clear timelines. He also advocated linking debt relief to climate resilience and development priorities. Among his proposals were the establishment of a tax reform task force, increased support from multilateral development banks for regional development, and a multidimensional strategy that strengthens financial innovation, fiscal capacity, and economic resilience. He concluded with a call to recommit to a rules-based multilateral trading system. The Prime Minister of Egypt addressed the summit next. Speaking on behalf of the Egyptian president, he expressed gratitude to South Africa for hosting the first G20 summit on African soil. He conveyed Egypt's appreciation for the invitation and commended South Africa's leadership in elevating African issues within global economic discussions. The Egyptian representative emphasized that the world is grappling with a series of unprecedented economic challenges, making the G20's role even more crucial. He stressed that reforming the international financial architecture is a top priority, especially ensuring that developing countries can access concessional financing in an efficient and fair manner. This includes strengthening existing financial institutions, improving their operational models, and increasing the representation of developing nations within global economic governance. He pointed to the necessity of comprehensive and sustainable debt management mechanisms, particularly for low-income and middle-income countries. He also reaffirmed Egypt's support for revitalizing multilateralism, particularly a transparent, rule-based trading system centered on the World Trade Organization. He insisted that trade is a vital engine of sustainable development. Turning to issues of peace, he underlined the link between stability and development. He referenced recent progress toward ending conflict in the Middle East and highlighted the importance of addressing humanitarian needs. He announced that Egypt would be hosting a conference on early recovery and reconstruction efforts for Gaza and encouraged all represented nations to participate. Closing his statement, he expressed optimism that the summit would produce outcomes consistent with the aspirations of global citizens seeking prosperity and stability. The Vice President of Nigeria followed. He thanked the host country and noted that Nigeria appreciated the opportunity to contribute to the summit's discussions. He highlighted the central theme of the meeting: building inclusive, sustainable growth and ensuring no nation is left behind. According to him, many developing countries still face significant structural barriers to achieving financial and trade inclusion. Strengthening global financial governance, he said, is crucial for building a system capable of addressing recurrent debt crises and the unequal distribution of resources. He noted that African progress depends heavily on increased support from the G20, especially in financing key development priorities. Rising debt burdens, he explained, limit investment in industries and essential services. He emphasized that sustainable financing, responsible debt management, and productive use of critical minerals are essential for long-lasting development. He explained that Nigeria continues working to improve its investment environment, noting that recent fiscal measures have encouraged foreign, direct and portfolio investments. The government is committed, he said, to supporting entrepreneurship by establishing 1,000 active businesses in each local government area to stimulate grassroots economic activity and create job opportunities. He also commended the World Trade Organization for its support through programs aimed at improving women's digital trade capacity. The Vice President closed by reaffirming Nigeria's readiness to collaborate with the G20 in shaping an economic landscape that supports the prosperity of all countries. Next, the Vice President of Zimbabwe addressed the participants. He thanked South Africa for organizing the summit and reaffirmed his country's commitment to pathways promoting inclusive and sustainable economic growth. He noted that global economies have been affected by multiple shocks, geopolitical tensions, disruptions in supply chains, and climate challenges. For this reason, he emphasized that building resilient and innovative economies should be a shared ambition. He outlined Zimbabwe's development priorities, which align with the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. These include strengthening value addition industries to move up the global value chain, enhancing human capital through job creation, empowering youth and women, implementing structural reforms to improve governance and business environments, and accelerating climate resilience and renewable energy investments. He asked the G20 to strengthen the global trading system under the WTO and to address barriers that make sustainable financing difficult for developing countries. He endorsed recapitalizing multilateral development banks, introducing innovative financing instruments such as green bonds and diaspora funds, and taking firm action against illicit financial flows. He also spoke about the importance of fairer debt solutions, including debt for climate and debt for development swaps. Zimbabwe expressed interest in participating in an improved G20 debt treatment framework. He concluded by encouraging collective commitment to a global economy that prioritizes fairness, sustainability, and inclusivity. The final speaker in the sequence was the Minister of Investment, Trade, and Industry of Kenya, who also represented the East African community. He thanked South Africa and stated that they G20 continues to play a fundamental role in addressing obstacles faced by developing regions. He reaffirmed Kenya's support for reforms to global financial systems to ensure that development financing becomes more accessible. The East African Community and COMESA, he said, are ready to collaborate with global partners in shaping a more inclusive economic order. He welcomed G20 initiatives on disaster risk financing, early warning systems, and capacity building. He also encouraged the scaling up of climate finance commitments for adaptation and mitigation efforts. The East African Community, he said, is working to strengthen food systems by increasing productivity, promoting climate-resilient agriculture, improving trade logistics, and expanding opportunities for smallholder farmers, women, and the youth. He reiterated that deeper cooperation between Africa and the G20 will be crucial for addressing vulnerabilities, supporting food system transformation, and advancing regional trade. Do you want to watch more videos like this one? If so, subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon next to it. We have decided to bring videos on something nobody talks about: the Africalites, civilization, history, and evidence about how glorious blacks have been. Thanks for watching, and until the next video, stay tuned.